So, in my last video, I demonstrated how printf and scanf could be used with a UART on the ATmega 1284 AVR processor. But if you tried that out, and if you tried to print or scan a floating point number, then you may have been in for a surprise. Let me demonstrate it for you. I'll start with the code that we ended up with in my last video. First, I'm going to comment out the printfs and scanf in the while loop. Then I'll change the variable from an integer to a float, and I'll assign a floating point value of, let's say, 1.25 to it. Now let's use a printf to print out that floating point number. Let's compile this. And everything looks fine so far. There are no errors, so everything seems good. Let's go ahead and program it into the AVR. Now let's start up TerraTerm and reset the AVR. And look at that! We would expect to see the value of 1.25, but that's not what we got. This doesn't look good. We just got a question mark. What's going on? Does the GCC printf on the AVR not work with floating points? Well, in this case, the default setup does not include code for floating points. You see, since the AVRs have very little memory, and since the use of floating points is a special case that probably is not encountered too often, that functionality has been left out to save memory space. But we can add that functionality in if desired. Let's look at the current program memory usage of this program. And you can see we are using 2,370 bytes. Adding in floating point functionality to printf will increase this. To add in that functionality, we need to specify to the linker that we want to use the library code for printf that contains functionality for floating points. Here's how I do it. I'll just click on the ATmega 1284 device in the toolbar up here. Then I'll click on Toolchain and click on the General section of the AVR new linker. I'll check the option to use the vprintf library. Next, I'll click on Libraries and add the floating point version of the printf library, which is lib_printf_flt. Now, I'll recompile the code, and let's look at the program memory usage. And you'll see that it increased from 2,370 to 3,878 bytes. So that added 1,508 more bytes. Not too bad, but this could be an issue if we're using an AVR with less memory. Let's program the AVR and see if this fixes the issue. And after resetting the AVR, you'll notice that we do indeed get a floating point printout of 1.25. Excellent! Let's try scanf now. I'll just get rid of this printf and uncomment the code in the while loop. Then I'll prompt the user for a floating point number. And of course, scan in a floating point number. Then I'll change the last printf to just print out the number that the user entered. Let's compile this and program the AVR to see if it works. And, oh wow, that's not good. Look at that. That scanf doesn't even wait for any input, and we just get the original value of 1.25 that the variable was initialized to. So scanf isn't working with floating point. Again, we need to add in more library code for scanf, similar to what we did for printf. you'll notice that we are currently using 5,618 bytes for the program memory. Let's add in the floating point version of scanf and see how much this increases. To do that, I'll just add in lib scanf underscore FLT. Now, I want to use the vscanf library, but there isn't an option for that. So I'll copy the vprintf version and click on miscellaneous and paste that. Then I'll just change the printf at the end to scanf. Now I'll recompile it, and we can see that the program memory usage increased from 5,618 to 7,104, which is another increase, this time of 1,486 bytes. Now let's program the AVR. And now it allows us to enter a floating point number. I'll try 1.125, and that works. How about 2.369? Yep. 10.25845? Works like a charm. And so does 8.5246. Beautiful. And that's how easy it can be to set up printf and scanf to use floating points on an AVR using the GCC compiler. But remember that by doing this, we are increasing the program size by nearly 3,000 bytes. So don't do it unless needed, especially on devices with little flash memory. Well, that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, right here on Dr. Play.